All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon. Today I am joined by Callie and Caitlin with Living Lands and Waters. My name is Angelica Brooks. I'm with WIMOS, also known as Women in Maritime Operations. Callie, Caitlin, would you like to say anything before we get us started today?
Yeah, we're with Living Lands and Waters. We're the river cleanup group that you might see along the rivers or have done events with us in the past, and hopefully in the future as well. But we're just really excited to be here on World Environment Day, and talk about our connection to the rivers and how important they are for the maritime industry, and just the world in general. So we're excited to be here. And Caitlin seconds that as well. Um, but yeah, I think we are ready to get going here.
Yes, sounds good. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and kick us off, just doing a quick introduction of WIMOS. So we are a nonprofit 501(c)(3). For those who aren't familiar with us, we were founded back in 2017. Currently, we have about 1,300 members, primarily across the United States, but we also have a chapter that's forming in Nigeria. We have about 12 chapters and C chapters across the US plus Nigeria. So a chapter has an elected board of directors, and a C chapter has a group of champions that are working with the national board to coordinate events in their local area. And in 2025, WEMOS hosted 154 events. So our nonprofit is dedicated to recruiting, retaining, advancing, and promoting women in the maritime industry through sharing knowledge and continuing education. I just wanted to give y'all a quick background about our organization and who we are and what we do. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Callie, and she's going to give you all lots of great background on Living Lands and Waters and also the important work that they're doing in our environment today. Thanks, Callie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angelica. I'm Callie. I've been with Living Lands for 5 years, as one of their programs managers, and also a bunch of different hats. When you're on the crew, you're kind of doing electrician sometimes, maintenance, all that fun stuff. But the majority of what we're doing is getting garbage. But I'm joined with Caitlin Stricker, who is our education coordinator as well. You can see us in this little pet in our recent hopper barge that we got not too long ago, but that's all the trash that's currently in there right now. So Living Lands and Waters is headquartered in East Moline, Illinois. We're a 501(c)(3) environmental organization that was established by Chad Pagraki in 1998. Since the organization has started, we have become the only industrial-sized river cleanup organization like it in the world. We are spending up to 9 months of the year traveling on our waterways, cleaning up garbage, doing about over 200 different events that are geared towards either hosting river cleanups, watershed conservation initiatives, different educational workshops, tree plantings, and other conservation efforts. A little tongue-tied here. So how we started is a really cool story. It was started by one guy, one boat, named Chad Pagraki. He was a founder and president. This is an old photo of him back in the day on how he got started because he was a commercial shell diver on the Mississippi River. So his backyard, front yard was the river. And in the summers, him and his brother would spend their time crawling the bottom of the Mississippi River looking for mussel shells. They'd put them into a pail and then they would sell them into the cultured pearl industry. It's quite interesting and super safe doing as well because Chad would have a golf cart motor on the boat attached to a garden hose that was in the regulator with his mouth. He'd have a weighted belt and he'd just be crawling the bottom of the Mississippi, kind of being the anchor for his brother while they were searching for these shells. They would also sleep on the islands, and I'm sure Chad was running into trash underneath, but he started to get upset by all of the stuff that he was seeing, and he quickly wanted to do something about it. So he went to the city. He said, "Hey, what's everyone doing about this trash and how do we get it out of there?" And they quickly said, "What trash you talking about, kid? And if we take it out, we're just going to be putting it right back in." Chad didn't like that answer, so he kind of started cleaning up himself. And his first year, he ended up getting about like 30,000 pounds just by himself, storing it in his parents' backyard. And they said, "Chad, you're going to have to do something about this so we don't become the next landfill in the Quad Cities here." And so he quickly, or not quickly, he went off to college and was, while watching a NASCAR race one day, thought, if people are sponsoring race cars, I think they'd sponsor a river cleanup. And so Chad started opening up the phone book and said, all right, I need, grant money to get me going. We can do employee engagement. He got a lot of no's at first, but he went back to the first place he went to, Alcoa Arconic, and he quickly, they said a lot of no's, and he came back and they said, all right, we'll give you about $8,400. His engine broke that year, motor broke down, paid for his fuel, but he kind of just kickstarted and knowing, if I can keep this going, this might turn into something. And there's obviously a need because it's the Mississippi River. 18 million people drink from this daily. It's an important lifeline of America and the maritime industry. And he just thought it was time that it got picked up. So that was in 1998 when he first started. Well, when he did that, CNN and a bunch of different news media people started getting wind of this kid trying to clean up the Mississippi River. And it just kind of kept growing. And in 2013, he was CNN Hero of the Year, which was really cool. And that stemmed another program that we run here, our Trees program, that I'll talk about in just a little bit as well. But we're a small crew of 8 to 10, sometimes 15 with the people that we have back in the Quad Cities, doing more office work, things like that, fundraising, because we obviously need the money to keep afloat. But yeah, we're just traveling around, throwing a bunch of different events, trying to do good for the environment. And what we do is live on essentially a floating recycling center. So this is our fleet of barges. The green awning there is what the crew lives on. There's 8 bedrooms in there, full kitchen, bathrooms, washer and dryer. And then in the back, we have a classroom where we bring all of the students, all the different community members, volunteers, lunch and learns, and also just where the crew hangs out in the evening and during the weekends when we're not picking up trash. So it's our living quarters and also our floating headquarters when we're not in the Quad Cities. And so we see different barges there that hold different items of trash that we get from our tires, all the stuff that we have to sort and then make sure the least goes out to the landfill because that's always our goal. And then also just big bulky plastics that we can now recycle and turn into other things, which I will go into as well. So see a lot of different beautiful towboats, nice, pristinely painted, but we like to keep things fun, energetic, kind of bring that color into the world. And so Chad thought it'd be a great idea to have a graffiti artist from St. Louis come down and paint the boat. So if you ever see this on the Riverways, it's our cool river cleanup towboat, and it just kind of pops that color and just is a nice little thing to see floating on the river. And so what we do for these events is we go out in these 30-foot John boats and we go to the shores and we clean up the garbage. We'll scout in advance as crew members to make sure there's stuff there. Then we'll go to the shorelines. We'll pick up the garbage for about 1.5 hours, 2 hours and just see what we can get. But typically it's a full boatload. And we got smiley faces at the end, hard work done, and a cleaner river with it as well. So really cool stuff going on. These are some of the stuff that we're finding. These are some of the spots that we're going to that really are in need. I believe this is in Memphis, Tennessee. Same with this one as well. But as you can see, a lot of what we're getting, the majority is single-use plastic items. So these single-use plastic items that are super lightweight, when wind comes, storm comes, they get going into the drains, which Caitlin will go into more a little bit later on. But this is the accumulation that we're getting of just the consumption that we see. And they're blocking up our waterways, affecting the animals, affecting the marine life, the maritime industry as well, with just the different things that are in there. So some of the spots that we go to will look like this. This is actually taken, we do an alternative spring break program with different college students from all over the country to come to Memphis, Tennessee, to McKellar Lake to help us clean up for 3 weeks straight. So it's a really cool opportunity. If you got any college students, send them our way. We'd love to have them come out there. But what they do is they clean up for 3 weeks straight with us. On average, we get about 100,000 pounds each year, and the places that looked completely dirty end up looking like this. This spot's unique because of the storm drains and everything in the city. It comes like that and looks like this every year, which is why we keep coming back to it. So there's definitely a need, but it's nice because this area acts as a backwater like net channel to stop the trash from going into the Mississippi, because once it gets there, it's kind of roaring and then it goes down into the oceans, and we're trying to stop it from getting there. Lots of tire spots. So a lot of tires is what we find, probably on average about, I want to say 3,000 tires each year that we'll be getting of all different sizes. but a lot of the stuff we're getting by hand or with shovels. And then come 2016, we had an excavator that was donated from John Deere, which was able for us to get these larger items that we'd see on the banks of the shorelines, which are really important because they're leaching out all of the different chemicals and harmful materials that come inside with these, either houseboats, big cars, things that we can't get with our hands, but have been sitting down there for decades. For example, we went to Pittsburgh in 2023, I believe, or 2024, and there was, we got word that there was over 100 cars on the bottom of the Monongahela, Allegheny, and Ohio, right in the confluence in Pittsburgh there. And so we worked with different dive teams and our excavator and our operators and our towboat captains so that we could remove as many cars as we could while the time that we were there, because we're traveling all these navigable ways. But we want to make sure with our equipment and everything that it's efficient when we're going there with all the equipment that is needed for these cleanups. And this was an area where they needed this industrial size cleanup action. And so in 3 days, we got over 60 cars from what we could tell. And most of them had been down there from the 50s and 60s. So it was time for us to get them out, just like all the other trash that we're getting out as well. So over the years, we've gotten tons of things, whether it's, you know, the monotonous stuff of tires, plastic, styrofoam, barrels, things like that. But there are some fun things that we found. We found jet skis, helicopter pad, tops of school buses. If you think of it, we name it. Or if you think of it, we've probably found it. And Chad himself actually has the world's second largest message in a bottle collection, which is really cool. So over the years, we've found over 100 different messages in a bottle. And just tons of fun different things. But that was kind of how Living Lands and what we do, all these different projects, programs as well. So what do we do with the trash when we get it? So we're housing it on the barges, but we want to make sure that it goes to the proper waste management recycling centers, and so that the least go to the landfill as possible. So we'll throw different events. We call it Recycle Like a Rock Star, where we have all of the trash that we've collected, sorted, put out on these long tables, and then we take, you know, the stuff that can be recycled to the proper recycling centers, and the stuff that unfortunately has to go to landfill, that's when it goes off of our barges and goes to the appropriate places. Oh yeah, that's just what that looks like. But the tires will get shredded and turned into different turf playgrounds, roads, different types of track fields, stuff like that, playgrounds. The scrap that will go off to the scrap yard, and the money will go back into the organization. Chad now started a company where he's turning our bulky plastics, like the 55-gallon barrels, the milk crates, the laundry detergent containers, those harder plastics. He's now turning those, grinding them down, and turning them into recycled plastic pallets so that we don't have to cut down hardwood trees anymore, and for just one-time use. And then the e-waste, that obviously we have to get somebody to come out and properly take that off to the proper places too. This is what one of those Recycle Like a Rockstar events look like, where we have all the trash sorted out. We have our barges right there, and then the garbage bins, and then the crew will be rolling those and putting them into the proper dumpsters. And going back to these tire removals, when we be getting out with getting them out with shovels, we were actually affecting the erosion control that the plastics and the different trash was helping the rivers on. And so Chad had the idea, if we're digging out these tires, let's put trees in there. And so in our winter season, when we can't be on the rivers, and the flood season and things like that, leading up to Earth Day and Arbor Day, we'll be doing our Million Trees program. And so every year we get about 180,000 different oak saplings, and then as well as a pecan or a different type of species. We'll do 3 different oaks, 1 other species as well. I'm sure some of you guys have gotten our trees, and hopefully they're doing great in the ground. But it's a really cool program to give back to our sponsors, supporters, and also the earth, and just we'll do tree plantings with them and tons of other things as well. This is what we do. So we get these saplings, then we as crew or other volunteers will drive them to either different sponsors of ours, and about to 25 different states all over the country. And so the background of us, since we have started since 1998, we have now removed over 14 million pounds of garbage out of the rivers. We've been on 33 rivers in 23 different states. We've worked with over 137,000 volunteers. Like I said, throwing anywhere from 200 events to 250 events a year, and just trying to give back and just keep working and helping the river out as much as we can. And that's kind of more of our reactive approaches, where I'm going to pass this off to Caitlin now, and where she can talk about all the students that we've educated and our proactive approaches to the trash problem that we have in the maritime industry and all throughout the riverways ourselves as humans. So thank you so much. And Caitlin, you're off.
Awesome. Thank you, Callie, so much. As previously mentioned, my name is Kaylin Stricker, and I am the education coordinator for Living Lands and Waters. I've been in this position for about 2.5 years now. I'm already messing up. There we go. So as a Michigan native, I didn't have much of an understanding of river ecosystems. And to say the least, it has been awe-inspiring to learn about, work on, and even live on some of our nation's major inland waterways. In my role, it's my job to coordinate with various schools in each of the river towns that we stop in, whether it's a large metropolitan area like Cincinnati or Louisville, and each of the small and quaint, rustic river towns in between. So students will come aboard our barge. If you remember that big snapshot Callie showed, this is our classroom that exists on that space as well. Students will come on, participate in lab activities, and they may even have an opportunity to jump in one of our boats for a river tour or a cleanup themselves. These opportunities provide students with not only a fun and engaging experience, but also one that is safe, encouraging, and always river-centric. Students will come into this classroom with all different perspectives of the river. You know, maybe they grew up on it, maybe they only know it by name, but have never had the opportunity to actually be on it. And maybe they also have this predisposition of it being something to fear. But environmental education aside, it is the utmost importance of our program to provide each student with a trusting and positive interaction with the river, especially if it's their first time out on it. We have to create, you know, an opportunity for them to find their own reason and relationship with the river. Because if they don't care about it for their own reasons, they might not see a reason to value it in their future. On the classroom, students will participate in lab activities such as water quality testing, macroinvertebrate identification, different simulations that, you know, show how invasive species and food chains work. But all of these lab activities allow them to physically interact with the river, again, to create their own understanding of how it works. When we're not able to be out on the barge, we are also always doing education in our own local community here in the Quad Cities. So we just had our spring workshops over at a local forest preserve where we teach students about the interconnectedness of forest, prairie, soil, and river ecosystems. Now that summer is quickly approaching, we also have our summer camp that is right around our corner. That's what we're currently gearing up for. So students will learn about, you know, how polluted waterways can have a negative impact on their own community. And they even have this opportunity to jump in our 14-passenger canoes. As I'm sure you can imagine, trying to coordinate 15 10-year-olds to paddle in unison in a marina causes some laughs for sure. But of course, giving them the opportunity to work on team bonding and, you know, maybe check out some of the river ecosystem that they had never had the opportunity to see before. All of our education programming is free of cost, hands-on, and always focused on students finding their own reasons for wanting to protect our vital freshwater resources. Our newest classroom space that we're actually hanging out on currently is our Mississippi River Institute floating classroom. And this shifts gears away from the ecological impact of the river and into an economic one. So it focuses on showcasing a wide variety of river-related careers to students as well. You know, not only do these inland waterways serve huge purposes for different wildlife, drinking sources, something that you just go and recreate on, but there are also over 1.3 million jobs that exist, you know, on this working river as well. Anything from trades, transportation, conservation, and hospitality. So the coordinator of this space, Rachel, she will have industrial professionals come out and talk to students about their career paths. They'll also bring hands-on demonstrations so students can take a step into their own world, whether it's a commercial fisherman bringing that morning's catch or a DNR officer showing off their uniform. And in some opportunities, they've even had towboats able to tie off to this barge and students can get a tour of the space, you know, maybe go check out the wheelhouse, cool things like that. Again, all of this is to show students the vast opportunities that exist in the maritime industry, not telling anyone who to be, but maybe inspiring them to look outside of the box they may have previously put themselves in their future. So again, as I said, connecting students to the water is a way to inspire them to care for it. This will deepen their understanding that even if they never see the river again, you know, they don't go hang out by it, they don't even care to look at it, the health of it is still very important to their own well-being. And also, thank you to all the students that have participated and been brave enough to, you know, jump in a boat, some of them putting on a life jacket for the first time, helping us also load away thousands of pounds of garbage. Speaking of said garbage, how is this entering our waterways? This is part of our education programming as well, having them understand exactly how it's moving throughout the country and through our waterways. So big one, storm drains. I'm sure we all see them all the time, especially loaded with garbage. Sometimes those will lead directly into waterway systems. Plenty of litter in communities as well. Either it was, you know, littered on accident, or maybe there's an event where garbage cans are overflowing and people just don't have time to empty them as fast as they're filling up. And people that are littering on purpose, maybe they don't yet have the understanding of how that actually can have negative implications in their own life. Floodplains, if you live near the river, you understand the fluctuations of the river, especially before locks and dams. Whole cities were taken away when the river would move. And maybe it was just some sporting equipment, some kids left in the yard, but in more disastrous situations, it could be vehicles, pieces of homes that are brought into the rivers because of this flooding. There is a lot of illegal dumping, you know, tires, larger appliances. A lot of these items do have costs associated with properly disposing them. And it's a hard truth that even if people want to do the right thing, they may be under systemic pressures that, you know, rightfully focuses their attention elsewhere. The largest source of waste, though, is industry output. You know, as a consumer, we produce only a fraction of what large corporations can put out. We're seeing a lot of these, you know, milk crates, 55-gallon barrels. We've seen mailing factories that have dumped their own pallets off the side of hills as well. So this is a really cool visual that will show the Mississippi River watershed. Spanning from the Rocky Mountains all the way to the Appalachian, we have this huge bathtub that's kind of created from this watershed. And each creek, stream, and river ultimately will lead to the Mississippi River, that dark blue section in the center of the map. As the river goes south, you know, it's growing stronger and faster because of all of this water and energy that's entering it from other sources. That being said, it's also carrying all of the waste and land runoff from each of these communities as well. I love to show this image to students, trying to get them to understand that it takes a wide, you know, landscape of individuals and different communities to do the right thing. It's kind of everyone's task. We're all interconnected. These are literally the life veins of our nation, and these rivers provide so much for us, and we really do all rely on them to be healthy, for us to be healthy as well. We all have a great responsibility to keep this land area clean, because once it dumps into the Gulf and into the ocean, it then becomes much harder to manage. Some of the sources that we're finding, Callie mentioned them a lot previously as well. The majority of it being smaller pieces of garbage that we're able to load up in bags and store onto our barge. It kind of creates this statement as we parade this around in different communities. It shows, you know, this hard truth that otherwise may go unnoticed. Plenty of microwaves, TVs, refrigerators, lots of heavy duty appliances, loads of tires, styrofoam. A lot of the styrofoam comes from different dock systems or maybe different buoys. And what's tough about styrofoam is it can get waterlogged quite fast. So the size really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how wide it is. If it's got a lot of water in it, it might take 8 people. The same size of styrofoam might take 1 if it had been floating around for a while. So it's wild, the types of things that you'll see out there. For our maritime friends, you may notice some of these things as well. We've gotten 865 channel markers, again, hundreds of pounds worth of things and debris that we're loading up. Lots and lots of barge line. Times students will spend 2 hours trying to dig one piece out. Lots and lots of barrels and a few life jackets along the way as well. So while their sources are coming from both the non-maritime and maritime industry, a lot of it's coming from those non-maritime industry sources. And in regards to, our towboats, they're actually making great strides in regards to environmental impacts. Just one 15 barge tow. So for those that aren't familiar, a barge tow, once it's considered full, it's carrying 15 separate barges. And one full tow can carry the equivalent of 1,050 semi-trailers. That's a ton of goods moved with a lot less environmental impact. So it's not only more environmentally friendly, but it's significantly safer than, our road highways as well. So it's the most efficient way to move goods. Barges have the smallest carbon footprint out of any other source of transportation. If you were to move the same amount of cargo by barge, train, and truck, you can see in the description on the right how those CO2 emissions will rapidly increase, where the truck will produce around 832% more emissions than a barge moving the same amount of goods. And we've always used the river systems as a highway to move commodities as well. But it's interesting to see how, especially now, we need to move even more, how it's still the best option for moving goods. All right, ways you can help, as I hope that's everyone's next question. First and foremost, reducing your waste. Under the pressures of the consumeristic society we live in, we generate quite an immense amount of waste individually. A lot of this waste is made of this cheap, often single-use plastics. And as plastic cannot naturally be broken down, by organic processes, it will persist in the environment indefinitely. Every piece of plastic ever produced actually still exists on this earth today. And it's still impossible to get away from, as it is a byproduct of petroleum and is heavily lobbied by the oil industry. But this is not at all to demonize plastic, as there have been many incredible implications, scientifically, of plastics. Think of the medical field, the safety industry. They have all relied and benefited greatly from these plastics. But when you think of these, smaller things that maybe we don't need to buy as often, those are the pieces I'm referring to. So we can do a better job of understanding, the products that we're buying. What are they made of? How long will we actually be using them for? And what is our drive for buying them in the first place? There's plenty of, quote unquote, sustainable swaps that you can make these days. But first and foremost, reducing how much you consume in the first place will make the largest impact. And for what you do find out there, you can clean it up yourself. Working within your own community is the best way to strengthen it, relying on each other, helping each other, trying to make a difference together as well. So grab your friends, grabbing your neighbors, cleaning up litter that I'm sure you have all seen in your own neighborhoods. How many times have you passed the same piece of garbage and thought, man, I really wish someone would come and pick that up? And you can, in fact, be that someone. We also have an Adopt a River Mile program if you need some extra assistance, where you can claim and vow to keep clean any section of waterway that you would like. We even can send some supplies, gloves, bags, and have a little sign made that will mark all of your accomplishments as well. But not only will you be cleaning up your community, it will also, give you more pride for the space that you live in. And as you pick up, so many plastic pieces, how many cigarette butts, how many styrofoam containers, that might start to shift some of your own habits in your own life. And with that, I would love to pass it off to Angelica to talk some more about another really cool organization on the water.
Hello, everybody. You just make switches. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin. So I will start it off right here. So as maritime professionals, our waterways are more than just places we work around. They are the foundation of our industry. They support commerce, transportation, energy, and our communities. Protecting them is not only an environmental issue, it is directly connected to the safety, efficiency, and long-term stability of maritime operations. Today, I want to briefly focus on why this matters to our industry. And I don't know why those little images aren't loading, but we're just going to roll with it. What the maritime sector is already doing and where we go from here. The reality is that waterway pollution is a safety hazard, has economic impacts, and it directly impacts vessel safety, operational efficiency, and cost, making environmental stewardship and implementing regulatory guidance and requirements a critical priority for the maritime industry. When people hear marine debris or waterway pollution, they often think of environmental impacts first. And those impacts are absolutely important, but for maritime professionals, there's also an operational issue. Floating debris, abandoned vessels, ropes, plastics, and other wastes can foul propellers, damage rudders and hulls, obstruct navigation channels, and create hazards during vessel operations. Not only is floating debris a safety hazard, but it also has large economic impacts. It increases maintenance and repair costs, operational delays and inefficiencies, increase costs as well. For example, a cost for a large container ship can range that has a fouled propeller can range from 100,000 to 10 million, depending on the cost of the rudder itself, dry dock time, the heavy lift equipment needed, underwater inspections, steering gear alignment, class approvals, and lost operating time. Another way pollution increases costs is by biofouling due to increased fuel consumption, which we'll get into a bit more later. According to NOAA's marine debris program, marine debris creates navigation safety hazards that can result in vessel damage, operational disruptions, and safety risks for crews. For those working on towboats, vessels, terminals, or ports, those are very real challenges. To put this issue into perspective, NOAA supported projects that remove more than 40,000 metric tons of marine debris from U.S. coasts and waterways since 2006. Environmental stewardship is not only about compliance, it's also smart business. Cleaner waterways support safer, more reliable, and more efficient operations. There's also increasing regulatory and pressure. But for biofouling, this is the buildup of slime, algae, and marine organisms on vessel hulls. Even relatively light fouling can significantly increase drag and fuel consumption. So, for example, light fouling can cause fuel increase of 20 to 25%. Moderate could be up to 40%, and severe could be up to 80%. So, increased drag equals increased fuel cost and emissions. So for environmental stewardship, it's not only about compliance, it's also smart business. There we go. There's also increasing regulatory and industry pressure surrounding environmental responsibility. Under MARPOL Annex 5 and 33 CFR Part 151, the discharge of plastics and garbage into U.S. navigable waters is prohibited. Many companies are also facing growing expectations tied to ESG initiatives, sustainability reporting, and environmental accountability from customers, ports, and communities. The maritime industry is increasingly expected to not only comply with environmental standards, but to actively contribute to protecting the waterways we depend on. The good news is, wow, I don't know why these images aren't loading, but the good news is the meaningful work is already happening across the industry. Many maritime companies and ports have implemented stronger waste management practices, spill prevention protocols, recycling and sustainability initiatives, and are also doing shoreline cleanups and restoration projects. We are seeing more collaboration between nonprofits, ports, companies, volunteers to support these efforts. Companies throughout the industry are very supportive, and we've seen that through and through from both of our organizations. And that collaboration honestly matters because protecting waterways cannot fall on one organization alone. It takes all of us. Thank you. And I will pass it back to Karen.
Thank you, Angelica. So Living Lands and Waters and WIMOs have worked together for many years now, and with very similar, ideas and goals, we've been able to work together a lot. So maritime education being a major one, as Angelica had said before, a lot of luncheons and tours that these women can participate in to have a better understanding of the maritime industry. Also on our side, bringing students and exposing them to all of the opportunities as well. If it sounds staticky, we just got a huge rainstorm and we are right on the river. Also, our river cleanups as well. And under the 10 cleanups we've had for the past few years, we've been able to remove over 12,000 pounds of trash with our WIMOs cleanups. You've never seen more badass women out there that have been involved in the maritime industry and then are able to transfer that into cleaning up the garbage that is on it as well. We've had a ton of fun with those and can't wait for the next one. We also have our own events that we've been able to collaborate on in this space itself. We've had just an event last week where we had some of the Quad City WIMOs chapter come out. We were able to paint a gorgeous photo of the river. We've had a few barge parties as well to continue to educate and raise money for both of our organizations, different barge tours, and while our missions are separate, they are also completely interconnected, just as the inland river ways are as well. We have the educate, engage, elevate from the WIMOs operation, as well as protect, preserve, restore coming from Living Lands and Waters. So it has been an incredible collaboration, and we can't wait to continue all of our events together, but also continue to see each organization thrive and strive in their own areas of the rivers as well. That being said, we wanted to thank everyone else for joining and tuning in with us today. We can't do any of this without the support from each of the communities that we, either get to work in directly or virtually as well. If you do feel so inclined, we've got a few, QR codes and links. Share it with folks if you think that they'd want to help out a few really cool river organizations. We're working towards that $4,000 goal that we have just in this webinar alone. As it is World Environment Day, congrats to anyone that's going to go out and try to do something awesome for the environment today. If you can't, support us on the boat, on land, participate in any of the events, that always moves us in all of the right directions as well. So, and with that, we'd be happy to open it up to any questions that people may have as well while we finish up the webinar. Also, if Callie or Angelica have anything closing to say as well.
If there are any questions, I'm pretty sure you can just come off mute, I believe, or you can throw them in the chat. And if you don't have any, that's totally fine. You can also, oh, mute is locked. Okay, well, oh, here's one from Lindsay. She said, what is the age range of kids you have educated?
Going into classrooms, I've worked with, 400 kindergartners in the matter of a few hours. That's pretty crazy. Otherwise, we have college age students that come out for our alternative spring break program down in Memphis, that college, upper education level, but everyone can be a student. So we've had people come out on cleanups, into their 80s. So I'd say we like to say 8 to 80. And this one of the single most items that I'd say we find honestly is water bottle, like plastic bottles. As boring as it is, that is the majority of, the things that litter. Unfortunately, all the really cool things are probably in the bottom of the river, the metal things. We don't do magna fishing or anything like that. So sometimes we get the boring plastics that have float to the top.
Jade would like to know, what is something they can do to personally help our waterways?
There are waterways all across the country. So understanding, if you're not a part of the Mississippi River watershed, as, our friends out in California, there are still waterways out there, especially ones that are bound to the sea even more. So understanding that garbage that is on land will eventually find its way into our river systems, trying to tackle the problem land-based is the quickest way that you can do that. So even if it's not litter, being mindful of what you're putting on the ground at all. We've put plenty of different chemicals on our land systems that will also run off into the water. So yeah, most importantly, be mindful of what you're adding onto the landscape, and then trying to advocate for cleaning up the areas that you live in yourself, because we're all connected.
Quinn would like to know if you all have any operations in the Houston area, because that is indeed where we have our largest chapter in Houston. We have over 400 members. So curious, Living Lands and Waters, do y'all do anything in Houston yet? You're muted.
You muted yourself. All right, now we're good. Same room, gets a little echoey. So I know we've gone down to Houston to help with some disaster relief back in the day, but as cleanup wise, we would go, I think, with our trucks, boats, and trailers if we did. Since I've been here with my 5 years, we haven't done anything down there except for I guess the closest would be if we worked with the Texas A&M and things like that through our alternative spring break, which I know WIMOS has a branch at Texas A&M to help and kind of collaborate with things on that. So that's kind of the most that I've seen since I've been here with the 5 years. Let's see what else we got.
Do you all have an event schedule? And if so, can we drop that link in the chat so folks know when they can join a Living Lands and Waters cleanup?
Yeah, so the best way would be to follow us on any of our social medias. We post all the events on our Facebook, LinkedIn, probably Instagram would be like a story for day of, but check Facebook and LinkedIn more than anything for those events. On our website, we also have the events page on there, but it's probably a little low right now. Once we land in Louisville for the year, then we'll start to do like more posts on like community cleanup in this area, community cleanup here, education session going on. I did see another question in there was how do we reach out for education sessions? Reach out to Caitlin. She's our coordinator here as well. She probably put her email even in the chat here for anybody that is interested in doing so as well. And let's see what else. Are there collaborations between freshwater and we haven't done that as much. Our goal is to make it so the oceans don't have to clean up as much and we can stop it before it gets there. And we haven't partnered with FEMA as much. I think it's the partnerships and sponsors and things would be more private, or we've TVA has helped us out when we did disaster relief in Cambridge Shores. But Chad likes to move fast, and so when he says and gets permission, then we get going and we just kind of boots on the ground, bring our equipment in, and it's almost like we were there and gone, and then we're on to the next spot. So we try to just do it rather than talk about it, which has been awesome and very fast paced. But yes, like when we were in Cambridge Shores, we were able to move faster because we were independent and also just had the funding to do so from our sponsors and things so that we could get all the debris removed out of there in the winter as fast as possible when that tornado hit in 2023 in that land between the lakes and stuff. So we were there for 3 months cleaning up 1.2 million pounds worth of barge loads of wood debris, dimensional lumber, cars, lots of housing, things like that. That was just ripped up from the disaster. Bye, Casey. Thanks for coming. See if I missed any questions up here. Yeah. Looks good to me. Pickles. That's a fun last name.
Alrighty, well, it looks like that's about all the questions we received so far. So thank you all so much for joining us today, taking out time on your Friday on this World Environment Day. So sorry for all the little tech glitches. It's funny because it does not look that way on my screen. So who knows what's going on? But you know what? We are here. We are rolling with it. Apparently Canva is ready for it to be Friday too, because it's like we're tired. But anyways, thank you all so much for joining us today. We will be uploading this to YouTube. So if you know of anyone who would like to watch the presentation, we can also share the slide deck. Feel free to reach out to us. I'll also drop my email in the chat.
Feels appropriate.
So I do help with side by side. I love it. I do manage all of our link to the YouTube. Yes. So once I finish downloading this, I'll make some edits in the beginning. So that way it's just the presentation portion. And then we will share it on our social media. So just keep an eye on the WIMOS and Living Lands and Waterways social media pages, and we will be sharing it.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, everyone. Happy World Environment Day. Go do something
Woo-hoo.
cool.
Come see us in the boats on the river.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all.
Snap it out.